federal prosecutors bringing a fresh approach to cracking down on violent gangs.
The U.S. Attorney's Office turning to racketeering laws and now trying to dismantle Minneapolis street gangs.
Tonight, Paul Bloom talks with prosecutors, investigators, and victims about this new approach to an old problem.
And those interviews, along with a review of court records, helped us trace a generation of gang violence back to one specific incident, a deadly shooting 20 years ago.
All we knew was some kind of house party that kind of went wild.
Veteran homicide investigators Charlie Adams and Richard Zimmerman responded to the scene at 12th and Knox in Minneapolis, May 2004.
As I recall, it was some groups from another gang that showed up at the party. They had their interaction, and that's what sparked it.
Charging documents at the time detail a toxic mix of gang members at the large house party when gunfire erupted. 18-year-old gang member Christopher Little was killed, igniting a gang war now decades long. The highs and the lows often separated by just a single street, West Broadway in North Minneapolis. A battle over the same territory involving some of these same faces.
Ashimiyu Olawale?
Now under federal indictment.
He's been a target at least 3 or 4 times on some of our cases where people end up dying.
All it takes is an attitude, anger, and access to a weapon. And before you know it, it's on.
Community leaders look for peace after a night of partying ends with bullets flying.
We want you to stop this madness.
Gun violence and gang activity in our community deserves all hands on deck.
In any gang war and in the development of any gang, there are certain incidents that trigger both the conflict and the growth of the organization, and that's one of them.
Some of these feuds become simmering and generational in nature.
In these federal court records from 2023, investigators say the feud between the highs and the lows started after Little, who was a member of the Lows, was killed. Quote, since this murder, there have been hundreds of shootings and murders between these two entities, adding that the victims of the ongoing violence include gang members as well as, quote, innocent adults and children who have had nothing to do with street gangs. Autumn Merrick was struck and killed while riding a scooter near Target Field, October 2021.
My daughter just turned 18, like her life was just beginning.
The shining star of her family, Autumn, was caught in the middle of a car chase and rolling shootout involving feuding gang members, including a man connected to the deadly house party shooting back in 2004. Lavelle Elmore was convicted of first-degree riot after police say he opened fire on Knox Avenue, triggering a generation of gang violence. Now, nearly 2 decades later, Elmore admitted he was behind the wheel of one of the vehicles that struck and killed Autumn Merrick. The violence forced outgoing U.S. Attorney Andrew Luger to treat gangs as criminal enterprises, charging dozens of alleged members with federal racketeering, also known as the RICO law, used to dismantle the mafia.
If 4 people are involved in 3 murders and they do it on behalf of the gang, that's the basis for a RICO, and that's what we've done.
An organization of violence that started 20 years ago. Andy Luger is confident that these RICO cases will continue in federal court. His team has charged nearly 100 alleged gang members.